So, yes?
Because Gary wasn't here. Got it. We still only have 3.
So we don't have a quorum and no, we got
sorry.
Is it all right to, so actually we're going to call to order first, and then we're going to have a roll call, please.
Chairman Bruce Trimber.
Here?
Commissioner Josh Simpson.
Here.
Commissioner Carlita Frazier.
Here.
Commissioner Mary Vox Bell.
Here.
Commissioner Carrie Schmelter.
Here.
Vice Chairman Jesse Solomon. Commissioner Evan Goodwin.
Notice regarding adjournment. Oh, by the way, today is Wednesday, August 3rd. It's 6 o'clock, and this is the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. And good evening all. Notice regarding adjournment. The Historic Preservation Commission will not hear new items after 9:30 p.m. unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which should not have been heard before 9:30 may be continued to the next regular meeting or special meeting date as determined by the commission members. Notice regarding public comments. Do we have any public comments? So we're reading this. Every member of the public who is recognized to speak shall address the chairman, and in speaking avoid disrespect to commission, staff, and other members of the meeting. State your name and address when speaking for a record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And it looks like we don't have to do that now because we have the ability to adoption of the agenda as written. So we have so let's just move forward as if we weren't talking about that conversation earlier. Adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. I'll second it.
And any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye?
Aye.
Adoption of minutes, July 6, 2020. Carrie, you're not able to vote?
I was here.
Were you here? Who was not here?
That was right before the baby.
Oh, good. That was June. Hang on.
Everybody was here, I believe, weren't they?
Except for Carlita, who is brand new, but yes, otherwise.
Okay, so therefore adoption, thank you for adoption of minutes as written July 6, 2020. That was included in our packet. I'm looking for a motion for adoption of minutes.
A motion that we adopt the minutes of July 6th.
Thank you.
I second. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Adoption of minutes as written. So again, no public comments on the agenda, correct? All right. We don't believe have any old business as of today. New business, we're moving on. So I believe that it's Katie is up.
It is me. So, tonight before us, the first one is 30. And just, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Jesse joined us at 6:02 and Evan at 6:03, so we do have a full commission. Welcome, guys.
And let's see, we did pass something, and that's the new business. And when are we going to get an introduction? Should we do that now?
We can do that now, since she will probably have things to say about the applications on our agenda tonight. Our newest member of the HPC is Carlita Frazier. We are very excited to have her. Carlita has joined us for her very first meeting today. She was out on a site visit last Friday and had her orientation earlier last week as well. So welcome, Carlita. If you want to say hi, you are welcome to, but you do not have to.
Thank you.
So we actually have a full commission now, don't we?
We do.
We're full body, so that's really good to see. Thanks for everyone to be here, and thank you for everyone to see this civic duty that we're doing.
Yes.
Yes,
So
okay,
tonight,
now, go ahead.
the first application that we have on our agenda tonight is an application by BFL Builders for approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a new two-story carriage house structure of approximately 704 square feet. It is located at 30 Meriwether, which is Lot 4 in the Land and Oak development in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. It is zoned neighborhood general. So the Land and Oak development is off of Thomas Hayward. And I don't have a mouse, but you can see it highlighted in blue there. If you come off of May River Road, you turn left onto Thomas Hayward, right into the Land and Oaks development, and it is on the right-hand side, so the back right corner. This carriage house is mostly complete at this time. They have an approval for a carriage house at this site. The request tonight comes before you because if additional square footage is added, it actually has to come back as a new certificate of appropriateness. It cannot be an amendment to the previously approved certificate of appropriateness. So the application that they are requesting tonight is to enclose the carport portion of the carriage house, which I have shown here. The little half portion of the carriage house on the approved set of plans is in the top left corner. You can see the staircase that runs along the back property line there, comes straight down towards the house. The set of French doors was the only portion of the carriage house on the approved certificate of appropriateness that was enclosed. They have brought this before you in order to enclose the second part of this. It puts the total square footage for the enclosed space at 704 square feet, which is well under the permitted 1,200 square feet that is permitted as a carriage house building type. So the floor plans, and you can see it a little bit better here, instead of being a golf cart carport type open space, the golf cart garage is going to be enclosed similar to the garage portion of it next to it. This is very similar to the application that we have seen, I think it was 2 months ago, and one prior to that as well, because they have made changes to the floor.
It was basically the same design, I believe.
Correct.
Yes.
And you've got two of them before you tonight for that as well. So this is what is being proposed. Again, it looked very similar when it came before you and was approved previously, except that the garage door, that is the smaller of the two sliding garage doors, would have looked like a set of French doors from this elevation because it was a partial enclosure rather than the full space being enclosed. So these are the elevations. This one has the horizontal siding with the vertical siding in the gabled end to match the primary structure, and has the same general character as the primary structure otherwise. The section in details are here. The one that I do want to draw your attention to is just this belly band / wall detail, because that is the only condition that staff has found needs to be met. But I will come back to that when we get there. Here are the other sections and details for that structure and the approved primary structure, just for your reference so that you have a better understanding of how that structure will look with this structure. So again, you can see the horizontal siding on the primary structure, the gabled ends that have the gabled L there, and then the vertical siding in the gabled ends. So the HPC has 8 review criteria. They are found in Section 318.3 of the Unified Development Ordinance when they assess a certificate of appropriateness. And the HPC has the authority to approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve the application with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Town staff found that if the belly band / wall detail on page A5.0 is revised to be a minimum of a 5/4 stock, it is currently listed as a 1-by stock, so it's just a minor detail.
Refer back to the drawing just for purposes of...
Yes, it is showing up on the top left drawing that's in the clouded area, and it is the skirt board of that water table detail there.
They're just calling a 1x10.
Yeah. And Mr. Bryant is here on behalf of the application. If you have any questions that I cannot answer, or you would like to open up the floor to him.
So you're having a problem with belly bands?
I have a very large one right here.
We don't want to talk about that. We're just talking about the building.
Katie, just curious, it's a carriage house that's already been approved, but it's being submitted as if it is a new submittal.
Yes, so should this application fail before you tonight, they do still have approval for a different carriage house. That different carriage house, the only difference in the design of that structure is that the golf cart portion of that would remain open rather than be enclosed space.
I don't see any issue with it whatsoever. I just think it's from the perspective of the process. It would make more sense to me if we were looking at the previously approved design versus the modification, as opposed to looking at a whole original new set of plans. This
Yeah.
is easy. This is easy.
Yes.
But if
So-
somebody was wanting to do a modification to a previously approved submittal that was more involved, it would be difficult to compare the two.
Right, and so the challenge, or not challenge, depending on how you look at it, with a revision that includes an updated square footage. So anytime the square footage changes, anytime you add or subtract anything under a roof, it cannot be an amendment to a certificate of appropriateness. It has to be a new certificate of appropriateness. So,
Regardless if it's heated or not.
correct, enclosed space. So if they put a roof over a porch, it becomes a certificate of appropriateness. If they put an open porch behind a house, it would not be a new certificate of appropriateness. It would likely be a site feature permit, which is reviewed at a staff level. So it's just the addition, it's just the addition of enclosed space that has to come back before the HPC as a brand new application. In the case of a structure that does choose to make some more severe modifications, I do typically include a few slides that just kind of show, hey, this is what you approved. However, they do not come into play because it is a standalone application. This application can either be approved with conditions, or denied as its own entity. However, there is one approved, so if it's denied tonight for any reason, that being said, staff finds that it meets the conditions, they would have to default on and build what was previously approved, or nothing at all if they so chose.
I understand that.
Yes.
I would just make the recommendation to consider adjusting that process to be able to amend a previously approved submittal as opposed to what we're doing right here.
Yes. And a lot of times, if it does not substantially alter the design or add square footage, then it can be amended instead of starting from zero.
Gotcha. Okay.
Perfect.
So, let's see, the comments are just the belly band, is that what I understand? Everything else looks fine?
I just had one question, which it doesn't matter either way, but on the plan, I saw that there was a door coming out on the side, on the left elevation, I believe, in front of where the carriage house was. You go back to, I guess, the plan view or the site plan.
Oh.
Well, on the site plan, there was a door that was shown. Yeah, is that going away?
Oh, that's not there.
Okay.
That man door.
That came off the old site plan.
Okay. Just wanted
Maybe
to.
that's a good.
Then I have no.
That's not there.
Yeah, I mean, either way, that would be, I would, yeah.
But just there's a.
I do see what you're
anomaly
looking
going
for.
on with
Man
the
door.
It's not on the floor, it's not on the ground floor.
You are correct.
Just- Yep, I have no, problems otherwise.
Yeah, and actually the elevations do show a 5/4 by, or have a notation for 5/4 by band board, but it's just the detail that wasn't updated. Okay.
Correct.
Simple process, could I get a motion or any further discussion?
I move that we accept or approve the submittal per staff recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay. Got carried.
And we have a second, so we're looking for.
I thought I did.
Yeah, so therefore, any further discussions? And if not, I'm looking for a vote. All in favor, aye? Aye. It looks like we have unanimous, it's passed. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. The second one we have before us tonight is going to be very familiar. So this is a certificate of appropriateness for the same type of request. This is the lot that is directly across the street. It is also under construction. It also has the same request that they are requesting to fill in that additional space underneath the golf cart. So on the first floor, the square footage is the same. It is 704 square feet. The design of it is very similar, except the siding material for this structure matches the siding material for the primary structure. So you've got the enclosed space that is the brand new entity. Everything else is remaining the same. And the detail that they provided is the same one that has the same challenge. Here are the elevations for that primary structure. So again, it has the gabled front. The one we saw 2 months ago, I believe, is the one that had the hipped roof that changed the materials on that. And HPC reviews the same criteria. They can approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve the application with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Barry Bryant is the applicant on this project too, which may come as a surprise to you all. But the only item that staff has found is that the belly band wall detail on page A 5.0 needs to be revised in order to include a 5-quarter stock minimum.
Any discussions? If not, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application with, as long as they meet staff recommendations.
Can you get a second?
Second.
Very good. I'm looking for any further discussion. If not, looking for a vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Looks like it passed unanimously.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Barry. You are good to go. I will send you a letter.
Thank you.
I added the detail on the garage door for you. You didn't have
I saw the cypress, 1x6 cypress.
You have put that on.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, the next item that we have on our agenda tonight is a discussion item that is not actually a discussion item. It is new business because it is a public project.
And let's just discuss that a little bit. That being said is that we don't have any vote, but what we do is we're allowed to say, pass this along to the next. So in other words, we're not voting yes or no on this. We're actually not going to even take a vote on this. Is
We
that correct?
are going to take a vote. You vote to recommend approval with conditions, or recommend denial to the UDO administrator, as it's a public project. So it comes through as a development plan with the DP number in front of it, but it is a public project. In about 2017, and don't quote me on the date, but it is in your staff report correctly, the HPC made a resolution to request that town council have applications for public projects within the historic district be brought before the HPC for discussion, since they are the ones who are familiar with our architectural standards and details within the historic district. So this is to allow the renovation of the Squire Pope Carriage House. It is a contributing resource located at 111 Calhoun Street in the park that is known as Wright Family Park. It is in the Riverfront Edge HD zoning district within the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. I have put a bunch of pictures up here from the Squire Pope Preservation Plan that was adopted in September of 2019. So this document right here came before you all. It then went before town council and was adopted, so that this is the document that we go by as we look at this contributing resource that the town owns. This is a very similar document to the one that happened for the Garvin Garvey House. So the plans that I brought before you tonight follow this, which is wonderful, and are going to be taking place. So we have stabilized the structure. Brian Osborne is here on behalf of the project. He's sitting behind me. You can see him there. And is here to answer any questions that you have. The existing conditions, I put just a few of the pictures that were included in your packet because there were a lot, but I picked some of my favorites. So these are the outside ones. My favorite interior pictures, though, are these here. So these are the existing conditions inside, which while we don't review inside, this project is too fun not to. You can see the arch in that ceiling. That is not because it's a wide-angled photo. That is because the sides of this room are just sloping that much away from the chimney that is through the middle of that wall. So there's that on the top left, the top right with the toilet there. If you see that pipe that runs through the middle, that's actually a shower head. You'll notice that there is not a basin at the base of that shower head. Where does the water go? It's a mystery, but it might lead to the reason that on the bottom left, you see the slope in the ceiling on that one as well. The last picture on that bottom right there is the 50s edition that enclosed a portion of the porch. This was reviewed in that preservation plan. So the building evolution, if you were here at the preservation symposium 2019, because we didn't have one in 2020, Metters was here to talk about it and discussed all of the different evolution periods of this building and color-coded them. This is the coolest image I may have seen since I started working for the town of Bluffton. So they did paint analysis, nail analysis. They looked at the different means of construction for this building, and they found all of these different periods from antebellum, 2 different phases of antebellum, all the way through the mid-20th centuries with that enclosure of the second-story porch here. You can see in red on the second-story floor plan that's listed here. I have put the images next to each other on each one of these. So this is the first floor plan. What currently exists is on the top. What is being proposed is on the bottom. So you can see that we're keeping all of the exterior and adding the ADA accessible ramp in order to make this space something that the public can use. At this time, Town Council has not made a final determination on the end use of the structure, but we are looking forward to that. When we do a rehabilitation like this, so like the Garvin House, we build it to make sure that it can support assembly rated floors, things like that, so that it could be used as anything from low impact passive space to a like event area. Like that's the highest use that would be something that could go in here. That being said, that doesn't mean that's what council is going to make of it. It just is what could be in there based on the construction drawings that we have. So you'll see that the stairs are being rebuilt here and the accessible ramp. Other than that, the floor plan stays fairly similar. On the second floor, this is where there's a little bit of a change because that 1950s porch is going to be opened back up. And you
Not gonna
can
be
see
screened.
that. I'm sorry?
It's not going to be screened.
No, but it is also not going to be enclosed. So right now, there are actually some horizontal windows in there and some siding that enclose part of it. There was a really cool old pedal bicycle in there. But it is now going to be part of the porch returned back to pre-1950s. So this is the demolition plan. They will remove the entire, you can see the little hyphen on the top image there, which is the first floor. Excuse me. Because that hyphen is completely rotted, and when you walk through it, you are stepping on dirt. So they will be lifting the structure up, putting piers underneath it, and then they've already stabilized it, but they'll be putting the pier foundation underneath it, removing that hyphen and rebuilding it, unenclosing that porch, rebuilding the stairs that are on the front there, and then repairing most of the rest of the work. There are details in the, if you had the plans pulled up on your computer, you can see these little notes that are like above the bay window on the end there. You can see that note that talks about the means for the repairs that are being made and how much of the siding will be retained. There's very little siding actually that has to be entirely removed from this structure, but it'll be replaced with in kind. So these are the front elevations. So this is the side that faces May River or the park because it is set back very far on the property compared to most riverfront edge structures. You can see that we are keeping the bay window, which was a point of discussion on the right side. The top one has that enclosed porch. The bottom shows it in its hopefully future glory there without the enclosed space. The rest of it will be repaired as needed.
What's this, if you go back, what is that rectangle like in the bottom second floor? Is that something?
I think it's just a railing detail, maybe. You're looking at the dotted line around the railing?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're looking at, I'm sorry. The bottom picture,
Second floor,
second floor.
Second from the
Second.
left.
window from the left. See how it's black?
It's a dark outline. I
It's
think it's
probably like a call out.
Yeah, it's just
call out for
Oh,
a railing
I'm sorry,
detail.
that's a detail call out for us, a porch section later.
Oh, sorry.
When I put these in a presentation, I use the cut and paste tool aggressively. I take off
Good.
siding things so that I can get it as big on your screen as possible.
Yes.
But sometimes it does leave weird things like that because the detail is elsewhere. Do you see what you're looking at now? The rear elevations, this is the side that faces that Water Street. You can see that there is, the chimney will go away. That is right down the middle of that. That chimney is not attached to the structure. If you walk past there, It is balancing haphazardly and is a later addition. So it is something that is going to be removed from it, but the rest of it will remain fairly as you are used to seeing it without the fence around it. They are replacing the shutters that were previously on the structure and have since been pulled off, fallen off, taken off, removed in some various ways. So you can see the rebuilt hyphen, the roof will be redone, the materials on the rest of the structure are going to stay the same. This is the east elevation, so this is the side that faces the public restrooms now. So you can see again, it is remaining almost entirely the same. It will be raised up on those pier foundation because again, at this time, there isn't really a foundation there. We found evidence of a little bit of a foundation in a couple corners, but other than that, if you know the story behind the carriage house or the Squire Pope carriage house, legend is that the main structure was burned, so they took the two outbuildings and moved them together. When they did that, they likely weren't planning on living there very long. So they didn't go about that move in a manner that was going to last very long. Turns out it did.
Katie, what is the roofing material? I mean, is it, they're getting rid of the existing metal and just going to do a shingle?
Brian,
The roofing material?
it is metal.
It's going to be,
So
okay.
it'll be put back as metal.
Okay.
The detail on it looks a little bit different, but it is called out.
So the whole roof is going to go to metal?
Yes. And then this is the west elevation. So this is the side that faces Church of the Cross. On the drawings, the existing conditions of that, for some reason, didn't show up well. So I've got the picture of the west elevation and then the rendering that is, or the drawing of the elevation for the west side proposed. So you can see that that is the space with the chimney in it. That window that you're looking at on the side there, that window is where that shower is. So it's an interesting design there, but it is going to remain and be obviously not slanted anymore, but this is the side that will have the accessible ramp that goes towards the parking that is the town of Bluffton's public street parking. I've included the door schedule and the window schedule that they've provided for us. If you take a look down this entire thing, they do plan on restoring almost every single window, with the exception of the ones that are going away entirely from that 50s edition, and all of the doors as well. So they do plan on restoring those. If something happens as they're going through and one of the doors is found that it cannot be restored, they will come back to us and let us know that there's an issue with that specific door, but it doesn't, it is projected not to be an issue. So as I mentioned previously, this is a public project. So instead of 318.3, this is from section 324.3 of the Unified Development Ordinance. And there are only 5 criteria rather than the 8 you typically see. But the HPC has the authorization to recommend approval of the application as submitted by the applicant, recommend approval of the application with conditions, or recommend denial of the application as submitted by the applicant to the UDO administrator for this public project. Brian Osborne is here to speak on behalf of the project, but town staff has found that it does meet the criteria in section 324.3, and it does align with the preservation plan that was adopted through you all and at your recommendation by town council. And so we recommend approval. We recommend that you recommend.
I have a couple comments.
Okay, and again, I've got Brian here too, so.
My first comment is pretty much all you know is I'm always looking at service yards. And it looks like the HVAC service yard is so close to the street. I walk that area quite often, and it just seems like that HVAC and if you look at the one side elevation, with a fence around it, you can see how close this is going to be to, let's see, keep going back.
Probably.
Go forward, please. Keep going forward. I'm looking for the pictorial
This one?
of the, no,
Oh,
this one. Yes, thank you.
excuse me.
Like, if you look at this picture and you can see where the HVAC box is going to go, it's right on the street.
Where is that? I'm sorry.
See back in the far, no,
Oh,
well,
sorry.
yeah. See past the chimney, it's going to be back in the back corner of that fence, and you're going to have this box hanging out, right on the street. Yes, thank you, right, no, I think it's down further.
It's this way?
No, the
I
other,
can
you
pull
know,
it up
keep
on
going, it's at the very end, it looks like. Keep going, Okay, I think it's there. So my question is, it seems like that could be turned around and put around the corner, and all that's really showing is HVAC. My question is where are the other meters going? And I hope that they're not gonna be put on that street.
Well, I mean, Bruce, if you're looking, you don't want it on the park side.
Yeah, that'd be my
No,
only
but you
thing.
could have it on the inside where the bathrooms are.
But there, that's also paved and ready for
That's gonna-
future events and stuff like that.
I understand that, but if you walk through there, it's somewhat sheltered.
Yeah.
And this is going to be completely exposed to everyone driving down that street. So that's just my comment there. I feel that it should be changed or looked at, or it bothers me.
Okay, I mean, I walk it every day as well, and
I guess my only thing is I do understand that, but what elevation, I don't know if I would put it on any other elevation, I guess.
So that's what discussion is for. Anyone?
Thinking.
I mean, I don't think there's a high traffic volume of cars that actually drive down Water Street. I think more people use the park and that bathroom area in Church of the Cross than ride down Water Street.
So the utilities for this are a bit of a challenge because our ordinance specifies that it should be in rear or side yards not facing side streets. So this is the rear yard of this structure because in the Riverfront Edge zoning district, the front of the house is the river. They all front the river. So that eliminates the front. The west elevation, which is the side that's closest to the church, has the porch that takes up that whole side, and then the ramp is going to be installed on that side of it. And then the east elevation, which is the one on your screen right now, there's not quite enough room on this side of the door to allow for that. And on this side of the door, it is fronting almost the park. So while the alternate location for it could potentially be here, it's being proposed at the furthest location away from Calhoun Street as possible on the rear elevation, which is facing a street, but is there. And they will be putting it in a service yard that makes sure that they cover it. But yes, it is a challenge, Bruce, and I agree with you that it is visible by the street. But this is the only other location that would potentially work, would be right here.
And they are going to have a service yard that
Yes,
will blend
and
it.
that service yard detail is in your packet, but I don't believe I put it in the PowerPoint.
Okay, well, those were just ideas that I had that were bothering me, so I had to voice them. And then the second is, I know this has nothing to do with HPC, but I wanted to make a comment about the lighting fixture schedule. I'm a lighting designer, and I see that you're calling out LED lighting. One technique that I use in properties like this is actually going with an incandescent, which may sound completely ridiculous. And you go with incandescent because you don't have to worry about the load that's going to be put on the circuit, so you can have your load proper. And the material that's available, for example, you're buying fixtures that have LED lighting and drivers all contained in them. The problem with that is if the driver goes bad or part of the LED goes bad, you have to throw the whole fixture away. By going completely incandescent, you have the opportunity to utilize all of these lamps that are completely available, and they have good color rendering, and that's one thing that you need to have, and also color temperature. In this, your color temperature needs to be in the 27s to 29, but you can't do anything more, and that's at keeping within the historic feeling of color temperature. In historic areas, you used to have more gas lamps, you used to have the old-timey lamps. Those lamps are all in the 27K. So that's just my comment, and I know it has nothing to do with exterior HPC, but as a historian, I think, and a lighting designer, I have to add that comment in there.
I agree with that. I think it's more time period would be the incandescent than LED.
Well, you're able to get these products in incandescent,
Yeah.
but you're able to put LED lamps in these incandescent fixtures because go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, you see an abundance of lamps out there. So what happens if the LED fixture goes bad? You're replacing that whole fixture because you have two components in there. And then you have the driver is in there, and then you have the LED circuit boards in there. And those could go bad. Now, if the thing goes bad, you just screw in a new lamp. So that's my recommendation as a lighting guy.
Thank you. That's information that I wouldn't have considered as I reviewed it, so I appreciate that. We'll take a look at it when we get further down the project line. It won't be first. There are some other problems that we gotta fix first.
Yeah, I'm sure
But
there
yes,
are.
no,
but
that
that's
is
just-
absolutely, it is great information to have. Thank you, Bruce.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I've got a question regarding the roof. Is there, and an overall question, as this, in essence is a contributing structure and would fall under rehabilitation, is there a period that's being sought to emulate? In the removal of the screen porch and things of that nature, I would like to ask, what is the reasoning behind that? Making that adjustment and changing the exterior veneer of it. And then changing it from what appears to be a 5V roof to a corrugated roof. Personal preference for me would be to see a 5V roof as opposed to a corrugated roof on the structure. So my question really is, what's the driver behind some of those aesthetic decisions?
Excuse me. So with this project, it is not being brought back to one specific period in time. Renovation rather than restoration on this one. So it is being renovated in order to be reused for a different purpose. The preservation plan that was done by Metters went through and looked at all of those pieces and then did a public survey that discussed what people saw as the most important features of the building. And a lot of the information that went into these plans was based on their historic knowledge through their preservation plan, but then also what the town of Bluffton, people who took that survey back in 2018, what they saw as important for that structure. And the things that were not found to be important, or if they were lost wouldn't be of concern, included that the portion of the porch, the screening for the porch, the chimney on the back. So the screening, I can speak to that one a little bit. The roof selection, Brian, you might be able to help me out with that one. I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we went from 5E to corrugated, to be honest with you either, but.
You can talk to the mic because we've got the county channel. It's got to be able to pick it up.
So honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure how it went from corrugated to corrugated from 5E. I don't know. I hate to give it that answer, but it came from the designer like that.
Sure.
If I had to guess, a little more rigid, no oil canning. You know what I mean? But other than that.
Thank you, Brian.
Any further discussion?
I would just like to say that it looks like a really neat project, and I would like to see some of the other projects coming up. Maybe use this as a model instead of the replication.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the roofing materials as well. I'd like to suggest that they look at potentially using the same roofing treatment from periods that they found in historical instances, rather than just going to a blanket corrugated metal roof, just for history's sake, and trying to stay as true to the older
I agree with
the
that
older
as
plans
well.
as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask the question, all these comments that we're making, are they going to be passed along, or how is this going to work?
You will make a recommendation that is similar to making a motion. So if you make a motion to recommend approval with the condition that they take a look at the roof material, or take a look at the lighting, take a look at the service yard location, things like that, you'll include that in your recommendation.
Does that make sense to anybody that may be making the recommendation?
What are the next steps as it relates, like post our decision here tonight? What are the next steps for this project?
It will go to the UDO administrator for the approval or modifications based on her understanding of your recommendation and moving forward with that project. And then it will be able to be permitted through the building safety department.
Certainly on her, the UDO administrator, excuse me. By just our recommendation, she's going to review that and make her own decisions from there, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we're just making recommendations to her, and then she's making the recommendations to move on or do whatever, or ignore everything we're saying.
Yes, the UDO administrator is the final approval authority for a public project. I will say that while it sounds as though that is a one human recommendation, it is based on the preservation plan that was adopted by council. So council has fed into this the public input that was part of the preservation plan process. And while the UDO administrator is currently Heather Colon, we take a look at all of it, and so it has come across many, many desks before it came here tonight. So it's not just one person making that finite decision by herself. It is a team effort. She's just the signature at the end of the day.
Thank you.
I've just got a few more things that, given the fact that this is a public endeavor, we recently had a submittal that came before us in which we really held the letter of the law as it related to the rehabilitation standards set forth by the Secretary of Interiors. I don't see that same scrutiny being placed upon this submittal.
So the review criteria are those found in section 3243 rather than 318 of the Unified Development Ordinance. With this, it has been compared to those criteria and has been found to meet them based on what is being proposed. So the siding material will all be maintained. The shutters that are there will be restored and new shutters added to the locations that are there. The doors and windows are restored in place rather than being replaced with new.
Down to the same, anything that is removed, the categorizing of it, the storage of it, the reinstallation, all of that to that same degree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So again, given that, that's very important for me to see that this is being handled to the same level of scrutiny. And then seeing the roof change from a 5V to a corrugated, that, to me, that's huge. I mean, you might as well paint it a different color. So that, like, that's the aesthetic difference that makes. So I would certainly want a motion that I am going to vote yes for to include that the roof be maintained as a 5V, not even to be reconsidered, but that's my preference. And understanding that it's not being taken to a specific time frame, it seems like there is a lot more leniency from a design perspective being taken by the town's behalf as it relates to a preference of said individuals that were involved with what this is going to look like when it's all said and done. I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm just saying there's a lot of liberties that have been taken in this, and we're the last voice. So it's very important for me to know that the piers would be built in the same manner that would be relative to a home of this time, that the siding material that is being utilized to replace the damaged material is of like species, and the graining and the sills, the window trims, all of that material is not a hardy, but it is in like kind, and it looks like a truly restored structure held to the same letter of the law that we would expect it to be if we were.
And help me, but I think I read where talking about species and such, I thought I read in here that was going to be followed. if you had to replace windowsill, doors, flooring and such that, I believe that was addressed in,
So I'd use that to counter and say, well, why are we putting a different roof on it?
and that's a really, really good question because, I don't understand the difference between the two roofs that you're talking about. And apparently it's quite significant in regards to the overall look. So help me understand this roof concept.
There's a detail that shows a corrugated roof on one of the pages, and the corrugated is just the waves. It's for lack of a better term.
It's the one that's kind of like a roller coaster, really close like this, where the 5V is more flat with just
With piece that you could see definite,
correct. The corrugated looks like you see it up on walls as a wainscot.
oh, okay, yeah, it's typically used as a wainscot. Okay, thank you. So that's the kind of roofing material that they're using?
That they're proposing is a corrugated, like,
A501. If you go to A501, it shows what's being proposed. And there's another photograph of the roof condition at connector that shows the existing conditions.
So I guess the question is, why did the architect choose that when it seems like the traditional roof would have been more typical? I mean, could you answer that?
Mr. Chair, I think I may be able to answer that question. If we look at the preservation plan that Metadoors put together, I'm reading from page 186, roof. The existing green asphalt shingle and 5V metal roof should be replaced with a new corrugated metal roof. The corrugated metal roof is the oldest roof documented in the early 20th century images. The profile of the roofing panels should match the exit historic roofing panels on the south bay window.
So there is some of this material somewhere on this property? Is that what we're indicating?
There are a lot of different types of roof that have been on this structure over the years, and the pictures from the structure have been kind of interesting to take a look at.
So I would counter that with, if we were trying to be able to look at this building when we're all said and done, and be able to see, like Katie, you alluded to earlier, the diagram that you liked that showed a color-coded summary of the eras that this had been touched. The structure is going to be, you're not going to be able to tell. And that, in my mind, goes against a lot of what historic preservation is meant to maintain, is that you can look at a building and see that this was done in such and such time, this was done in such and such time. What I want to guard against is a public project not being maintained to the same letter of the law that I believe it should be from a preservation standpoint, and just being a great new facility for the town of Bluffton that's whitewashed to all look the same as if it were built in the same era, and it's not. This thing has a ton of history.
So you're going to revert back to that, as you were talking about, the color-coded picture that you have?
The color-coded picture is one image from the preservation plan that does show all of the different eras in which this structure was added onto. So this is that picture. However, I think the process may be, this process has been spread out over a very long time. So the in-depth, like the detailed analysis that I think is what you're looking for, that is similar to that which was on the other projects, was done at the time of the preservation plans review, and then these are the construction drawings that are coming from the results of that preservation plan. So I think that's where maybe the disconnect is that the recommendations, the construction drawings are being done based on the recommendations that are included in the preservation plan, which was reviewed in 2018-19.
Who was that reviewed by, Katie? I'm sorry to interrupt.
It was reviewed by the HPC and Town Council is the one who adopted the preservation plan. Metters Inc., which is the same people who did, well, they didn't do the actual drawings, engineering firm that was associated with them did, but Metters is the one who did the preservation plan. They're the ones who did the preservation plan for the Garvin Garvey house as well. And this document is on the town website, but it's also, if easier than trying to find it on the town website, if you go to Google and just type in Squire Pope Carriage House Preservation Plan, it's on the National Park Service website. So it's been, the state has accepted this as well as town council, and has been reviewed by the state historic preservation officer, by town staff, by town council, and
There were
then Metters
workshops.
is, there were.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that maybe is where some of that, that in-depth analysis that you're looking for, rather than the pretty pictures that we are now met with,
Right.
took place.
And I have nothing but respect for the companies, and the parties that were involved with the research, with the report, with the review, the approval of the report. But it does go against some of the basic principles of preservation, and noting the different eras that a structure such as this has been remodeled over the years, and the fact that we're, in essence, about to grant approval to lift it, put a new foundation underneath of it, give it a complete facelift. And when that facelift is over with, it's gonna look uniform, for lack of a better word. And I don't think it's meant to look uniform.
I would just expand upon that and say that you can kind of go two ways with preservation, and either picking a period and sticking with it, or letting it tell its story and kind of highlighting the different pieces like the diagram shows. For instance, on this diagram, the chimney that is no longer attached on the is it Water Street side is being removed. But if you look at the diagram too, there was this sort of octagonal piece on the west side of the plan that's being, right at the bottom there, that got infilled in the early 20th century, that's being left. So I'm wondering where we draw the line of what gets added, what gets taken away, what gets left, versus do you just leave it and restore it as we've found it now, and let for instance, the roofing and the different asphalt versus corrugated versus 5V tell the story and highlight that in different plaques or placards across the site.
Yes, and this is definitely a renovation, not a restoration.
Yes.
So it is meeting the criteria for a renovation. But, yes.
And you're saying make it, because it's been renovated in this time period, in this time period, and this time period, highlight that and let that, this is the house, it was originally this, it was updated here, and updated here, as opposed to just trying to build what was originally built. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, and I guess I'm saying, I took part in all the town voting that went on online where people were giving input and such, and I thought that was a great idea. I agree that the the 1950s screen porch or infill on the second floor should probably be taken down just because it doesn't look like the period. But I wonder why we're taking off the chimney on Water Street, but leaving the addition on the first floor where it's filled in on the back side of that west side fireplace. Do we draw a line to where, does the town decide to draw a line where the cutoff is of restoration versus going back to a certain period or not? I guess I'm not recommending anything. I'm just drawing questions of what do we focus on, what are the priorities, and how do we let the Squire Pope Carriage House tell a story that it's already telling now without, as Josh alluded to, sort of whitewashing certain periods and taking them out just because we want to.
Lynn, I'm going to put you a little bit on the hot seat. In this discussion, I know that some of these discussions had been done previously in the workshops and in other meetings that have been held. And how to get to where we're at, especially in regards to the roof, which, okay, I think you bring up the fact that that little what they're doing is they're copying a part of the roof that's already there, and to my understanding, that roof was installed when? On, you know, the existing metal roof, when was that put in place?
Early 20th century.
Okay, so they're copying
They're looking for the oldest
The oldest
extant roof.
the oldest material that they were able to find on that property.
Right.
And that's what they're copying. So I don't know if the roof that we're looking at was even invented then, or if that's the standard roof that was used back then, or what.
Most likely, the original roof of the structure was just pieces of whatever they found lying around after the war. Was probably not a metal roof.
It was just stuff.
It was just stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And at some point, a roof got put on that was a little bit more durable, a metal roof that got replaced, that got added onto, and then they went to asphalt, and then, so the methodology they're using is to try to find a roofing material that is historic, but certainly is not what would have been there originally.
Yeah, originally, if these were outbuildings that were put together, and those original roofs may have been, you know, cedar shakes, you know.
That's possible.
So it really comes down to, what are we trying to do to this thing? And granted, there's been a ton of planning put into place, but now it's before us and we've got the last say.
I don't know if we, I mean, and that's where I'm confused. I don't know if we have a say or not. We're just, I think this is just being presented to, and maybe I'm understanding it or don't understand, is this is being presented to us because in 2017 is requested prior to that, anything the town was doing, it just went through and we never, as HPC body, never looked at anything. So now, I think, to me, is this just a courtesy call, in a sense?
It is sort of, however, the recommendation, the UDO administrator receives the recommendation of the HPC as she makes her final approval or approval with conditions for an application for a public project. If the roof is something that you would like them to do a little more research into or look into more, then it should be something that you include in that recommendation. However, that because the approval authority is the UDO administrator, it is not to say that that is 100% going to change like it would if it were a certificate of appropriateness before you, like the garages that we saw tonight. That when you put a condition on it, those conditions have to be met prior to the final building permit being issued. So, I mean, with this, it is a recommendation. However, it is a recommendation that is taken into consideration as the application is reviewed. So I would encourage you to include your thoughts in that recommendation because they will be reviewed and the letter will be written that the HPC sees these as deficits or as areas that need more attention prior to the final approval or approval with conditions being granted. So.
And if it's backed up by information from this engineering firm, I guess that's how it's going to be backed up. Any comments, additional?
I don't, I was just gonna say the level of details on these construction plans, if anything, before, there was a little talk of prior applications, if anything was that level of detail as far as categorizing each, you know, window and door and exactly what you're gonna do with it and all the elevations. I mean, I would have had no problem giving a recommendation of approval for it. I mean, I don't think it's reasonable actually to expect some private plans to have this level of detail on a renovation for a structure, I guess would be my.
This is considerable cost. And I mean, not considerable, but considerable cost.
But it's not unheard of at all. I mean, it is not above and beyond. This is the standard that I would expect to see.
that said, any other further discussion? Or,
There's a lightning protection system that's called out here. I don't know if there's been.
I'm sorry, what, I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, there's a lightning protection also that's called out to be implemented into the design. I don't know that the details for that, or the finials, the air terminals have been specified.
did they, just curious, did lightning protection, interesting. I mean, I didn't see that, but is that something that was done back then? Or is that just something for safety purposes?
That's more contemporary feature.
Just like I saw sprinkler system is an option, and sprinkler system is just pure option, and that's for, it doesn't really need to be sprinkled, it's just an option, is that what I understand?
It's going to be utilized as a commercial
Technically, it is
space.
an option, but it will be used as a
It's gonna
commercial
come up to
space.
code, yeah.
With a historic structure, if there is room to put in a sprinkler system, it's a good idea, because by the time the fire department gets there, it'll be gone otherwise.
Well, also, where's the riser and lift station going to be located?
The riser and lift station,
It's in the closet.
it's in a closet.
It's got a full set of documents. They have a full set of documents too.
Yeah, the MEP, there is an MEP.
Pulling up. I think it's.
I think I see it on,
Yeah, I haven't. I've seen it. I just look at
FP 101.
Sorry?
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's in that closet off the connector, 104.
My biggest hangup is I feel like when it's all said and done, we're going to lose a ton of the exterior dissimilarities of this structure. And I feel like it's being done in a manner to make it look, quote unquote, uniform and fresh and new. But this building has never been uniform, fresh, and new. And if we're trying to preserve this structure from that perspective, the exterior facade that I see doesn't achieve that goal.
The siding material will not be replaced when it doesn't need to be. There are a few pieces, especially close to the ground, because it's been sitting at grade, that will need to be replaced. But the siding material that is on the structure is what will remain in place.
And they're replacing the same type of materials, I understand what was written.
In the locations where it must be replaced, but whatever can be retained, which is in this case a vast majority of it, will be retained and left on the building. It's not being deconstructed, like the Garvin House was. This one is going to remain standing, and it is not occupiable right now, really, but it will remain in the form that it is currently in while these changes are being made.
I do appreciate that, but I know that by the time all of the flashing has been accommodated for and the particulars associated with the insulation have been taken into account, and the exterior screen porch, the screens have been removed, and all of those components that are going away have been taken off, and the roof's been removed. And you get down to the repair and the restoration of the windows, which there are 3 alternates that are listed here in this document as opposed to restoring the windows. My biggest concern is that as this is vetted out and and put into the hands of actual implementation, is that this document doesn't protect against that finished product finding the path of least resistance. And a lot of the pieces that I think that you alluded to are meant to stay, they don't stay. And if we have a strange situation where different pieces join, it just comes off, and and easy reason that's given. And again, when it's all said and done, it looks uniform across the board.
To change the makeup of what it looks like is what you're saying.
Yes.
Carlita, can you speak into the mic?
I was saying, what he's saying, it could potentially change the makeup of what it looks like.
I would encourage you to include that in your recommendation then.
So we can make that in the recommendation. In other words, those comments can be made in a recommendation, and those recommendations passed along and taken from there.
Correct.
So,
And who then reviews that?
The recommendation, the UDO administrator.
So that goes to the UDO administrator, and the UDO administrator is the final step before passing it off to the town to go for a permit.
Correct.
for any town project,
Correct.
that's how it works. And that's where town projects are completely different, because like I said, I recall in 2017, I think, as you mentioned, there was a discussion on how could things be done without us even knowing about it.
Correct.
And that's where this came into play. So,
So if we don't say it now,
well, we have the ability to say it, but
But
in
they
a
don't
sense,
have to.
this to me is, the way that was discussed in 2017 in the past, we're simply just, they're being nice to us and letting us give our comments and then passing it along. We really don't have any other strength with town projects, and that's the reality of the HPC for
so
town
if we made a
projects.
motion to deny this application and it granted approval, theoretically, you're telling me that it still goes to the UDO administrator and it's,
Correct.
Right. So we could do anything, so the comments that are,
Okay.
no, I mean, really,
so I just,
so the comments that are being said, the motion needs to be just passed along as that motion for the review of the UDO administrator, because we really don't have that authority as we do with any other project that's presented except for town to deny this.
I get where Josh is going with this, though. We put the burden of a private citizen to buy an old structure that's sitting vacant, and we put them through a rigorous process of going through the HPC and having to listen and answer to those recommendations, whereas the town takes on a public project and the HPC has no standing except for a recommendation. That seems a bit...
That's the way it's been.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
That's something that the town council has to approve. And that was a discussion, there was a big brouhaha, because I was on the commission when that discussion was going on. We were getting in big fights about it, and we got this, at least the town council, to allow us to do this, and I'm just saying it's somewhat of a courtesy more than anything else.
But as
So
long,
that's just the way the town has set it up, that's the way that if we need to change it further, I think it has to be talked about to the town council, and something has to be put forward, but other than that, that's where we're at. And that's, if you
I
don't
think
like
that
it,
that
I understand,
should.
but that's the reality of it.
I think that should happen. Because in essence, there is no,
Check.
there's no veto. There's no veto within the town. Other than their,
but the project still has to abide by what the UDO says. If it meets that,
correct, but the only person that is reviewing that is the town itself. Us, as citizens on a committee representing the town, don't have the ability to do anything that, other than make recommendations.
And that's where we're at today. So for this project, we can have further discussions on this, but, I mean, for this project, I think we just need to move forward on what we have presented to us, make a motion so that it goes through the UDO administrator. The UDO administrator is going to review. I'm sure Glenn is going to back anything up that's being done with the UDO administrator. I take it, am I correct? As the historian, and understanding all the nuances that go on with that, and then it'll be approved and passed along.
But we have the opportunity to maybe bring something to light that she didn't see before.
That's
So
correct.
when we make a recommendation, we can say, maybe
motion.
double check the roof and,
correct.
just
In the motion, that's correct.
And it can, and I would go so far as to say, our motion doesn't need to say, double check the roof. It needs to say, let's just imagine that we all agreed that the roof needed to be shingles. We, HPC, can say, it needs to be shingles. And then it's on the UDO to go against what we've recommended on behalf of the town or on behalf of our collective body. And at that point, we have done all we can do.
That's correct.
But again, you can go back, I count on the town they know the UDO better than I do. They know the things, I count on them to bring to light, this is why we've done things, so then I'll listen and it helps me understand more. Because they have Glenn's a historian, he knows way more about that than I do.
Correct, but you are up here
Agreed,
for a very important reason as well. And I don't want to give all of my taxpayer dollars or rights thereof as a citizen over to any government or any other individual. That's why I just want to take a firm stance in saying, whatever motion we put together, I think it needs to include everything that we could make from a recommendation standpoint as we see fit to the betterment of this project. And not just trust, because the UDO governs a lot of stuff, but it doesn't delve as deep into the historic preservation aspect, at least the UDO administrator, who's the next step, the last body before this thing goes before a building permit, as we or Glenn do.
Right, so, yes, and you should include those in your recommendation, as I mentioned. This project has been reviewed by the HPC. It was put out for bid, a public bidding process, that then a preservation plan was created through the public process. It was reviewed by the HPC and then adopted by town council. That document is what guides these drawings that come before the HPC as a reflection of the preservation plan that was bid for qualifications, reviewed through public meetings and the HPC and town staff, the preservationist. Glenn didn't participate in this one because he was not here yet, but Aaron did
And I wasn't
through
either.
this process, as well as myself. And I know you're not discounting that, but I just want you to know that while this specific document goes through less steps, this project goes through more than that. It was also reviewed by, the set of construction drawings has been looked at by the state historic preservation officer. So up at the state, they looked at these plans and they said that these plans are kosher, I guess. I don't know. They've given us the nod of approval. Should we seek grant funding for these in the future to be able to use funds for this project that are not municipal funds? They've already approved those plans through their review as well, and then now it's coming before you as construction drawings. So they have been reviewed by the SHPO, town staff, HPC, town council, and now they are back before HPC.
Workshops, too.
And through the public
There was
workshop
public-
program.
I believe there were 2 or 3 workshops.
I have 2 or 3 workshops, as well as a public input survey that was available for over a month. So, I mean, it has been reviewed on several levels before this document came before you tonight. But this specific document,
But this is what's going to get built. All the other
Correct.
stuff that led up to this, it carries weight and it led to this, but this is what's going to get built.
correct, the drawings that are based on the preservation plan.
With that being said, it seems like we should make at least a motion to move forward on this in some sense to allow us to feel comfortable as a commission that the administrator is going to review this and respectfully talk about what the ideas of this commission should be passed along. And I think we discussed a number of issues. I know it's somewhat complex, so I think I'm just, it seems like we're kind of getting in a roundabout here, and I want to move on, so let's try to present, is there anyone willing to make a motion with the discussions that we've had?
I'll be happy to make a motion.
If you could speak clearly into the mic so I can hear you.
Yes. I would like to make a motion that we approve with the following considerations for the UDO administrator prior to granting a final adoption or allowing for a building permit. Revisiting the material selections for the roof and considering alternate materials in locations coinciding with the ages of the specific component. And next item, for the windows and doors to be restored without allowance for the alternate options listed in this document. And consideration given to allowing the veneer to show a delineation that speaks to the time of each individual component of the structure in order to allow the finished entity to tell its past.
Got it.
Is that enough?
I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? I'd like to mention that in that motion, I guess, I would like to have added a service yard reevaluation, and also the comment in regards to color temperature and reverting to the light fixtures, just because if you're going inside and the fixtures are of 4,000 K, if people understand what that means, that just wouldn't represent the interior properly, so I want to make sure that you have the right lighting. That's just my particular, since it's a town project, I have the ability to at least mention that. That's just my further discussion on that. Any other further discussion? With that discussion, it can't become part of the motion, can it?
Only if the motion is amended.
It has to be amended.
If, I
I
mean,
would like to amend my motion
okay. Okay,
to ensure that the light fixture selection is in keeping with color temperature representative of historic fixtures. That the service yard location be reconsidered. And lastly, that lattice work be incorporated between the brick piers as opposed to stucco on the CMU block.
okay. So I need a second for that I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you need
Can I
a
get
second.
a
for that
second
motion.
on that, please? Second?
I'll second it.
Second? Any other further discussion?
So Carrie, and then the discussion. So then we would need a motion, we would need a vote to amend.
So
We're just voting to add that. what
we're
he
voting
just
to add that to the motion, so now
Correct.
now we have to have another motion to amend the
Nope,
motion.
nope.
We're just
nope.
voting on that.
We need a vote at this time whether or not to include Josh's amendment to the primary motion.
So therefore, that being said, through Robert's rules, I guess what we need is another motion.
We just need a
We
vote.
need all in favor or deny.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I get confused, and I went through all the classes, and I still get confused
That's
on
okay.
that. So, Anyway, I guess I'm looking for a vote then. No?
Yeah.
All in favor?
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any
Everyone is
opposed?
opposed.
No opposed, so passed.
So the motion has been made to, or has passed to
To
amend
amend the
the
motion.
previous. Now you need just a vote on the newly
Total.
amended motion.
The total.
Correct.
So therefore, I'm looking now for a second.
Nope, just a vote.
Just
We've
a
already
vote.
seconded it.
Okay. Now I'm looking for a vote for the total amendment as amended.
The motion is amended, yes.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
One opposed.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And now we have one final item, and it looks like we have Charlotte.
Pardon me, I don't know why I'm getting this view here. Okay, where did the mouse go? I'm sorry, one moment.
Looks like this is simply a discussion, is that correct, Charlotte? There's no
is.
voting or
So,
anything on this?
yes, I'm gonna leave it like that for the time being.
There's no voting or anything?
There will be no
required?
vote on this. It's simply, I'm going to give you a little bit of information, and what you can do is provide a recommendation to the Planning Commission. So this is an item relating to possibly allowing a larger building footprint for the River House building type. This is not a formal text amendment. It's something that's been an inquiry to town staff. And so we've looked at this and want to give you a bit of an overview so you have some information. And we're making a suggestion, which you may or may not agree with, but let me tell you a little bit more about it. So the River House building type, excuse me, I don't. One moment. Okay, there we go. I'm going to stop doing that because I keep coming up to a display that I do not want. Not sure why it's doing that. Anyway, so the picture that you see there is a river house. It's one of the number of building types that are permitted within Old Town. And as you can see with this photo here, it's got a large central mass, and it sometimes has extensions to both sides. According to the UDO, it's typically anywhere from 60 to 90 feet. And as a river house, the front of the building faces into the May River. There may be a porch on the other side, on the street-facing side, but there doesn't have to be. So again, the front it is to the river. And this particular building type is only permitted within Old Town Historic District, and also in the Riverfront Edge Historic District zoning district. The color coding that you see there is actually the Riverfront Edge District. The 32 lots are mostly single-family detached homes, and it also includes Oyster Factory Park, Wright Family Park, and Church of the Cross. And this graphic that you see here includes the dimensional requirements for the riverfront edge, as well as the characteristics of the river house building type. And one thing that we did notice when we were comparing the two is that the height, there's an inconsistency between the height. For the river house characteristics, it's showing as 2 to 2.5 stories, and the river house within the riverfront edge zoning district shows as 1.5 stories. So we believe that that needs to be corrected, and we are suggesting 1.5 to 2 stories. So that would be a change that we would propose to the Planning Commission. And as you can see here too in the river house, that the size range is 2,000 to 4,800 square feet. The maximum building footprint is 2,000 square feet. So that's where the concern is that the footprint may be a little bit too small for the river house. Here are some more photos of homes that are within the riverfront edge zoning district. And as you can see, not all of them are river houses. And in fact, probably most of the homes that are within this particular district are an additional building type. Many of them have been constructed late 1800s through the mid-20th century. The data here, I'm sorry, is a bit small, but you do have it in your report. And this is data from Beaufort County, so it's not completely reliable, but it does give us a sense of the square footage out there. And so a lot of the building footprints actually exceed 2,000 square feet, and we do have some homes out there that are actually larger total square footage than 4,800 square feet, but that's kind of the exception rather than the rule. So comparing the river house edge and the additional building type, the requirements from the UDO, the lot width really is not a concern for us. The lot width is what it is right now. They do vary. The river house requires at least 75 feet in width, whereas the additional building type's a little bit less. And if some of those homes out there were identified as additional building types, and then their lot would be conforming if they had that smaller width. And as I mentioned before, the river house height does need to be corrected. Again, we are recommending 1.5 to 2 stories. The additional building type right now is required to be 1 to 2.5 stories. The building site, let me jump down here to the very last row. If we're looking at building size, that the range is a little bit different. For the river house, it's 2,000 to 4,800 square feet. Additional building type, the building size is 2,000 to 5,500 square feet, so it's a little bit larger. And it's based on the building type with the largest building size, which would be the center hall. Likewise, with the building footprint, the additional building type is based on the building type with the largest footprint, and that would be both the center hall and the river house, and it's only 2,000 square feet. So the suggestion here for the additional building type is to permit a little bit more building footprint, but that would have to go through the UDO administrator. And the suggestion is to allow up to 5,500 square feet. But in reviewing this, the UDO administrator would have to be certain that the building that's proposed is characteristic of another building type permitted in the river front edge district, and it has to be consistent with the size range. So, for example, there wouldn't be a 5,000 square foot cottage. So there's a little bit of give and take here with this proposal. And as I mentioned earlier, this is only for discussion. You can make a recommendation to the commission, and we'll include that in the staff report.
Just a question. So you're right now, they said the maximum footprint is 2,000, but you're going to change the square footage up to 5,500. Are you increasing the maximum footprint?
So right now, the only thing that we're looking at changing potentially is the footprint. As the UDO is written right now in the bottom row here that you see, what's permitted now is anywhere from 2,000 to 5,500 square feet. So the building type with the largest building size is the center hall. So additional building types would be permitted to have that same building size. But if you look at the building footprint, it's only 2,000 square feet right now for additional building types. Yet the building size range is 2,000 to 5,500 square feet.
So what's the footprint going to be for our 5,500 square foot house?
Well, right now it's 2,000 square feet.
What are you
I know,
The
but so what-
suggestion, the suggestion is to allow up to the 5,500 feet.
So we could put a 5,500-foot ranch style or whatever you want to
No.
call it. I mean, 55, help me understand.
Footprint or square footage?
It's the footprint
So you're proposing a 5,500 square foot footprint?
Footprint.
for additional building types. And
Oh, I
again,
would-
I'm sorry if it's a little confusing because
No,
we
it's not
started off
confusing.
talking about the river house and that's what
That's all we're talking about is River House.
we're not talking, so this would be, the request was to look at the river house, expanding the footprint for the river house.
So we can actually-
But in reviewing the homes that are out there, most of them are not river houses, they are additional building types. So the recommendation is to change the footprint for the additional building type. Right now, it's 2,000 square feet.
We could have a
What's
total
your-
square foot at 11,000 square foot house.
No,
What's your
Because you
proposal,
said two
though?
stories.
it's,
5,500?
no. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of questions. So let's look at this chart again. So the building size that's permitted for additional building types right now on the riverfront edge is 2,000 to 5,500 square feet. However, the building footprint is 2,000 square feet.
What is your suggestion for the?
So we are
footprint?
suggesting that the UDO administrator be allowed to consider up to 5,500 square feet. Again, it would be part of the COFA. It would still come through the
May I
HPC.
interrupt you? We are asking for the footprint, not the square footage.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting confused too.
Yeah,
is-
we see the square footage. What is your suggestion for the footprint? To remain at 2,000?
5,500.
Footprint.
That is
But
huge.
the caveat is the buildings, the square footage, those numbers stay the same, right? So it caps out still at 5,500 square feet.
Correct.
But you're proposing putting 5,500 square feet on a 2,000 square foot footprint.
No, because the height, that would be shared, no.
If we could cut side chatter out, please, we can't have people having conversations not into the microphone. Commissioner Simpson. Commissioner Simpson. Mr. Chairman.
We can't, thank you, we have to eliminate side chatter. Side chatter is not allowed because then if it's not public discussion, public discussion has to hear from other commissioners during the commission meeting, so we can't allow side chatter, folks.
Okay, I'm sorry
But-
for the confusion.
But still, there's confusion on my part because I'm looking at a 5,500 square foot something. And so could I look at,
55 is the overall building square footage, and that could be
Correct.
between first, second,
just, we're allowing only 2 stories,
2.5.
correct?
2.5.
stories. I thought 2 stories.
She said 2, but it says 2.5.
So
here.
the building, the additional, okay, no, the additional building type is 1 to 2.5. What we're recommending for the river house is that we have a consistent height between the architectural characteristics and the requirements that are in the riverfront edge district. So this column right here, we are making a suggestion that it be 1.5 to 2 stories. For the additional building type, we are not recommending any change. It is 1 to 2.5.
Charlotte, I think that if we just break out, like if you go to that second slide. I'm sorry, the number 7,
Number 7.
number 8.
Yeah, no, and do each one.
All right, let's just read number 1, river house building height. The suggestion is to change from 1 story to 1.5 to 2 stories.
Correct.
I think that's an easy yes, check, no problem.
But you have 2.5 on another part of
Yeah.
it.
That's for the additional building type. What we noticed in researching this is that we have, this is for the river house. The height is only for the river house because there's an inconsistency in the UDO. So we want to make that correction. Now, regarding the expansion of the building footprint, that is for the additional building type. We've determined most likely that most homes out there are not river houses, they are additional building types. And the inquiry is for an additional building type, not a riverfront, not a river house. So the additional building type is intended to allow flexibility.
Where else can that additional building type be used?
Well, this is the additional building type for the riverfront edge. Additional building type
Can it
is,
be used in any other districts? Can it be used, additional building type, can't that be used in other areas
yes,
of the
but they
town?
all have their own specific requirements. So a neighborhood general additional building type will have different dimensional requirements.
So
This
this is
applies,
strictly for additional building type on riverfront only?
correct,
So it's not additional building type?
correct,
All over?
correct.
So
It says
with
a
that,
change to 1.5 to 2.5 stories is suggested for both sections. On page.
Correct, and that's to take care of the architectural characteristics and 5.15.8, and then the dimensional requirements that appear in the riverfront edge. That is for river house only, not additional building type. We have an inconsistency between the two sections that needs to be corrected.
So is it 2 stories or 2.5 stories?
There's, in
So-
existing buildings, there's no 2.5 stories, there's all 2 stories.
In one section, it says 1.5. In the other section, it says 2 to 2.5. So we want to make the correction, and more appropriately, it would be 1.5 to 2 stories. So we want both of those sections in the ordinance to be the same.
I don't understand. I don't understand why it says a change to 1.5 to 2.5 stories for both sections.
If you look at the column at the top, that's for additional building type. Over here, the second column is for river house. The second column is additional building type. So we're talking about 2 different building types. We
This is
noticed it.
both.
I'm sorry?
It says both.
I'm not sure.
There's a note at the bottom of this page, the comparison one.
There's a note number 1, there's a discrepancy in stories recorded UDO requires 2.5, section 1.5, change to 1.5 to 2.5 for both sections is suggested.
Okay,
Note
well,
number 1 on page 131 of.
and I'm sorry, I don't have that attachment in front of me, but if it says something incorrect other than what I'm saying, then that's
Okay.
incorrect. And I'm sorry for that
Oh,
confusion.
no, I just wanted to make sure I was under, okay.
So, yeah, it says it.
Okay,
on our-
I
on our packet.
apologize. But that will be corrected. So is it clear now that we're talking about the river house height and making those sections consistent? We're not making any changes to height or recommending any changes to height for additional building type. So the other item that we are attempting to suggest making a change to is the building footprint for additional building type.
So this has come about because it states in here somewhere that this was brought to your attention because somebody wants to build some monster house. Is that what I'm reading? I don't know.
No, it doesn't say that in the report.
It doesn't say
Yeah,
that.
we've had
That's
an
my
inquiry.
interpretation.
We've had an inquiry, and as I indicated through looking at the homes and the Beaufort County tax assessors information, is that these are typically very large homes or large homes.
These amendments arose from an inquiry regarding possible expansion of river house footprint to exceed the 2,000 square foot maximum allowed. So,
but Charlotte, as I understand it, the request is to increase the footprint to 5,500 square foot?
Up to, it's not an automatic thing. This
Up
will
to.
go through a review. This will go through the regular COFA review, and it may not be possible in some cases to get that much
And the
footprint.
current maximum the current maximum building footprint for an additional building type is what?
2,000 square feet.
Okay.
So
And that's
2.5
ba-
times,
I'm sorry?
2.5 times what the current one is.
yeah, because you're going from 2,000 to 5,000.
And
You're
just,
asking for 5,000.
So if we increase the building footprint to up to 5,500 square feet, are we increasing the total allowable square footage?
The building size is still 2,000 to 5,500 square feet. So the building will never be more than 5,500 square feet unless someone attained a variance.
How can you build a 5,500, 2,000
So it wouldn't, it would
It would
be
just be a
a single
one-story. It
story.
would be a one-story
It'd be a massive single story for
in this
55.
theoretical
Right.
thing.
And
It
I would
would
go
allow
back to
that.
number 6.
That's not what I'm reading. I'm reading a footprint of 5,000 square feet times 2.
No.
No, no.
No,
The,
the
so
total.
the footprint can increase, correct me if, the proposal is to allow the footprint minimum size to increase to 5,500.
Maximum.
But maximum. And the building size, that's gonna stay exactly the same. So the building size has to, for this center hall or additional building type, well, can still maxes out at 5,500 square feet.
Correct.
That stays the same.
Regardless of the
Regardless of
footprint.
one-story, 5,500
Yes.
square foot home.
I do. I mean,
And that 5,500 is a big footprint.
A lot of space.
And you could make a recommendation that it be something else if you think it's too large.
Charlotte, can you go back to slide number 6 that shows the existing home data? So the building footprint column, not the total square footage column, but the building footprint column. You know, we've got,
Let me get this a little bit larger.
there's only
One,
We got
3 houses that are above 3,000 square feet. 55 Whittier Cove.
And they were built a long time ago, so, yeah.
And is that building footprint, was that 4,700 square foot home built in 1950, or was it added on to over the years?
Some of these were additions, and I would have to go back and look at the records, and they're not great.
I would say, 3,500 footprint size max would be my recommendation, 3,500 to 4,000 tops, but 5,500, that's a huge footprint.
Because you're saying like number 15, you could put a 5,500 square foot house on or number 19 on a half-acre lot.
And there's not that many.
And I think based on the 75 Calhoun, people are going to take advantage and maximize
Definitely.
every single thing that they can.
And we're trying to maintain, especially we're talking about the riverfront. 55, if somebody wanted to build a rambling 5,500 square foot single-story structure, they could combine 2 lots. It would just, I don't know that that's what you expect to see or would want to see from the river.
Absolutely do
Yeah,
not.
only
agree
3
with
of them
these
go over
suggestions.
3,000 square feet, so I would make a recommendation to cap it at 3,000
and
for the footprint,
For the footprint, it could still go tall.
right?
Well, I would cap it at 2 stories.
mean,
I guess we're just
basically,
saying we think that the 5,500 is too big a footprint.
That's massive.
Again, I don't see where you're saying that a 5,500 footprint can't be doubled. I mean.
That's
how-
in the maximum square
Where is that,
footage.
where is that?
Because there's also a maximum heated square footage besides the footprint.
and that's 5,500 currently.
Okay.
And especially given the fact that
But-
this is being brought before us because it's been requested. Like, there's somebody that wants to do this. I mean, it's already teed up. Somebody wants to do this. It's trying to work its way through the approval process. I say no. I say 3,000, even 3,500 tops, but
For the footprint, if they want to build 5,500 heated, well, then you're going to do a story and a half or a 2-story, but just not a 5,500 footprint.
I don't think any of these should be erring on the side of larger at all, ever.
especially given, where is this request being made? Is it connected to or is it connected to sewer? Is it going to be on a septic system? Like, there's so many other things that go along with that.
And there's only these lots that they could do that on, correct? So it looks like somebody's got a tear down going. That's what I'm kind of assuming.
She probably can't say.
One of the lots, somebody wants to put something on, so you're looking at a tear down.
But the only one that even comes close to 5,500 is 135 Bridge Street, and that layout is so unique that I don't think you could possibly use that as a standard.
So what
I mean,
type
like,
of
that doesn't make,
format does that recommendation?
So
need to
what do you
come
want from us? What do we need to do? I mean, I guess we're discussing this, and do we have any, you're hearing our discussion, and I don't know where we're going with it, and I'm not sure what, okay, you're hearing our discussion, but again, it seems like we're getting in a loop
No,
again. And I want to
it's
just kind of
helpful.
get to a point where we come up with a decision and say, okay, we're kind of agreeing to 3,500 for a footprint.
I'd say
I'm still-
35 to 4. 35 to 4. I mean, because you
I would say
already have.
3,000.
We're looking at the data in front of us from the previous houses that were built. And it looks like it stays within that character except for a few, the building footprint, and thank you for putting all this information here. You're looking at, how many did you say? You said 3 that were in the, above 3,000?
Well, only 3
Yeah,
above
3.
3,000. And I
Three.
think that if you were to look at those 3, there's probably additions and there's probably other items that add to that building footprint that wouldn't be one structure.
Yeah. So that sounds like it's utilizing the information that we have in front of us from the previous homes built. That seems like it's fair. The person looking for 5,000, it doesn't even fit within the same look as the rest of this. I take it they're only going to be able to be built on purple,
Correct, the riverfront edge,
only on purple.
correct.
So therefore,
Either new
if we
construction or
had some
expansion.
other house coming up on purple that was 5,000 square feet, it just doesn't look like it'd be the same neighborhood.
But then they'll use like this as a precedent to increase other areas too.
Right.
So I think it's 5,500 is just,
So it would
you
be,
may as well make it 10,000 and just let anybody do whatever they want.
start building McMansions.
That's
I mean,
really
that's what we're
huge.
trying to prevent, I think.
Like North Forest Beach or South Forest, whichever one. Can I see what you're holding? That
Sure.
packet? Thank you.
I'll just say, my 2 cents, I do think it would be, for this district, appropriate to increase the allowable buildable footprint, not square footage, to, I would definitely be okay with 3,500. I think one of the reasons why I'm more okay with it in this district is because there are generous setbacks compared to other districts in Old Town. And I think that it's still coming before the board, so it's still important for us to look at the character, look and feel, and what the surrounding homes are on properties nearby, that it would be appropriate. Just because it is in the UDO as an allowable size does not mean that it can be built on every lot. But I would be okay with an increase to 3,500 square
Times 2?
feet. No,
Okay.
it's
Just the
still keeping just footprint, still keeping, I think it would be
Because you're allowing 2-story, again, I'm going,
no, the square footage size is not gonna change, so that's still gonna be capped at 5,500 square
you
feet.
could build another half-story with additional square footage on top of that?
Right, if you say the
Good.
maximum square footage is 35, footprint is
Yes,
3,500.
I understand that. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
so, but you can go up to 5,500
Okay,
seated.
so we could put that on the second story. Okay,
Correct.
I'm good with that.
Let's give consideration right now. We've got a site plan.
Thank you.
We've got a site plan in the packet in front of us for
You're gonna,
Yeah, no, I just
just
need,
the
yeah.
footprint.
Yeah.
Squire footprint, correct? So that, I was just wanting to see, do we have a lot width of the Wright family park?
Katie's looking that up.
But,
So let's just take let's take an example
over here,
of one of these
she has the
properties.
packet. It's in the packet. Here. Hey, well, I got it right here. Is this what you're looking for?
No.
I'm looking for the old packet, the back of the other project.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're looking at. I don't think it's on there, though.
So what is the overall width of the Squire Pope home?
Oh, it's
It's not, I don't think it was included, wasn't going into that area. Like, as you said, there's bigger lots here. I think that we just need to come to a conclusion and move on.
And bigger setbacks too, in this district.
There are bigger set, I mean,
There
they're
are.
just bigger lots to begin with.
Yes, yeah.
So therefore, we have bigger lots, so they will naturally fit on this property better than if you're putting it on a quarter acre lot.
Correct. So the,
That dog don't
and
hunt.
I do
You
have that
can't go
graphic.
Closer than 20 feet.
about.
So the graphic showing for the river house, there's a 20-foot side yard setback, and for the
Okay.
additional building type, it's also 20 feet.
So there you have different setbacks, which are a little more extensive than typical. So that's
I'm looking at like the
good.
Conservation Historic District, the general, all those are the 25 feet.
What's that?
These are all 25 and 30 feet setbacks. So really,
Yeah,
it's
so
not,
right,
it's not, there's not a greater setback. I mean,
There's less,
I think
On
the
the
river
riverfront,
lots,
there's,
that
yeah,
might be
the
different,
riverfront
Mary
should be,
Gwen.
that's a 20-foot setback. Well, the-
are you changing it 20-foot setback?
So the setbacks for the riverfront edge, nothing about the setbacks.
You're not,
is
you're
suggested
not
change.
changing
they're a lot
those
less.
where you
Like
would-
in, like the Merriweather homes, those setbacks, like that lot was only 45
I will-
feet wide.
I'm just, this is the
So why is
conservation
it
district.
listed differently in here?
Those are different zoning districts. The character is
Right,
different.
But Jesse was saying like, based, that because the setbacks
Can I
are
see that page? Just give me.
greater in other districts, I mean, in the river district than it is in other ones, that that's really not the case.
This is
I mean, but we're not
conservative,
changing
so-
setbacks at all.
When he was comparing it to those,
So this is riverfront, so they're not
Right.
changing the setbacks.
no, I know,
This is-
but
No.
those are even greater than the river ones, is what I meant.
Right, but
Yeah,
we're
the
not
conservation one,
changing
yeah.
those.
No, I'm just saying like, but if you base it, I only brought that up because you mentioned it in your point.
So,
Oh, gotcha.
He
Yeah.
agreed with you, that's why I was.
yeah, so
Gotcha.
narratively, we're not changing any of the setbacks, so we're
No,
good
but
there.
No, no one's changing setbacks. I would just, it's more, I'm just making the statement, it's more appropriate, it would be, could be feasibly more appropriate for a larger footprint house to be put on a larger lot with larger setbacks.
Yes.
Where, for instance, like the Merriweather home, that lot was 45, or Merriweather was a 45-foot wide. Those setbacks, what were, 10 feet? I'm just making the statement that, now, every project still has to be seen on its own merit, and it has to be appropriate, but in those districts, it's much tighter, so,
I
anyway,
think,
that's all. That-
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But the majority of districts, it's less. It's fewer feet.
Correct.
Correct.
So there was an earlier question about the width of Wright Family Park. It's about 210 feet.
So the Squire Pope home, it has a width of approximately 67 feet. It has a footprint, a building footprint of approximately 1,700. So a 50, just to put it in perspective with something we've talked about tonight, that has a building footprint of 1,700. We're talking about allowing something 5,500 square feet, like just doubling the footprint of the Squire Pope home would be 3,350. So like it's 3 times the size of the Squire Pope
Just as a, visual.
with a 67-foot width. Now, with 20-foot side setbacks, that would be 67, 90, 110. Would require a 110-foot wide piece of property from property line to property line. I'm not sure what that 270, where that ends as far as the park goes, but that's
pretty big.
that's huge.
It's a big chunk of, it's a big,
It's a
they're gonna
big
put it on a big
footprint.
property.
But I still think
Whatever
we're all
this
in
is going.
agreement that 55 is too much.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think 55 is too much, but I think we kind of discussed it, and is everyone pretty much in an agreement with 35?
Yeah.
I mean, does that sound,
I think that sounds very reasonable.
Yeah.
that
Very
sounds reasonable?
Yes.
I think you also have to consider that you're allowed to have two houses on that same property, so it's not at 800 square feet.
That's just the main structure.
So, I mean, when you take that into account also, that increasing the footprint.
So we're in agreement, 3,500 square foot footprint with a maximum of 5,000,
5,500.
5,500 total. Is that pretty much?
Wait, what now?
Does that do you good, Charlotte?
think
Do we need to vote on that, or
You don't need to vote. I mean, it's,
so we're just kind of recommending, then, I guess, as a body, is that correct? I'm going to voice it for everyone, so I'm making a motion that, it's not a motion, but it's just a recommendation now. That
What-
we're recommending 3,500 and 5,000 total.
But the maximum is 4,800 square feet?
no,
Same for
currently for additional building type, the maximum building footprint is 2,000 square feet.
But the river house,
For the river house,
we're not talking about increasing that square footage.
No.
so the building size range is permitted to be up to 4,800
Right.
square feet.
Okay, so we're not recommending
So no,
that
we're not
be
recommending
increased.
changing the total square footage. I think, I'm just using the 5,500% or whatever, but that was wrong. So I guess what we're actually saying is keep the total square footage the same, just increase the footprint to 3,500.
Right, and there's no guarantee it will be 3,500 square feet, but we're saying up to, consideration up to 3,500 square feet.
Footprint,
Correct.
but total
Would be the 4,800.
4,800. Is that what we?
For the river, on this chart, so for the river, 800, we're not touching square footage.
The river.
On the UDO,
Okay.
period. The only thing that we're talking about is the footprint size.
All right.
But those still stay the same, 4,800 for river house, 5,500 total for additional building type.
Thank you.
Or center hall type.
Is that clear?
It is clear, and I'll make this much clearer for the planning commission. So this was a test drive, and sorry for the confusion.
All right,
And I would use the Squire Pope residence as an example. I mean, we've got all the documentation. And if, on that site plan, it looks like it's 199 feet wide to a pin that runs and cuts through parking spaces. So that lot is probably,
210-ish is what I've got, but
but I think that includes some of the parking area. Like, that's in the road. So if you were to throw 20-foot setbacks into that, then, you know, now you're down to 160. And that's a big piece of property. We've got the map here, like right beside number 16. That's one of the widest lots in purple that are even available.
Correct, yeah. Thank you. This conversation
Is
has
that-
been helpful for me because
okay.
I realize.
Hopefully it has, and we appreciate it. And I think that's the last item on our agenda, is that correct? So therefore, I'm looking for a motion to close the meeting,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
and then I'm looking for a second.
Second.
We have a second, looking for a vote. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed, no opposed? Meeting adjourned.